Don't touch me. Love must be earned. When your own wife says that while she's pulling her hand away from yours, what are you supposed to do? Beg, explode, or finally walk away? I just stood there holding a plate like an idiot, feeling that one sentence hit harder than any punch I've ever taken. This is the woman I've spent years busting my ass for, putting a roof over her head, paying every bill, and now my touch is something she thinks I have to earn. My name is Mason, and if you're a man who's ever felt like a paycheck instead of a husband, don't scroll. You'll regret missing what comes next. Hit subscribe, stay with me, because what I did next shocked her, and everybody who thought they knew me. Before that night in the kitchen, before Don't Touch Me, this is who I thought I was. My name is Mason Carter. I'm 32, living just outside Austin, Texas, in a little suburban box I nearly broke my back to afford. I'm the guy who put a roof over our heads, kept the lights on, made sure the mortgage, the car payment, the insurance, everything was handled before I even thought about myself. I wasn't chasing yachts or some big flashy life. My dream was simple. Come home tired, drop my keys on the counter, and know my wife was on my side. I used to look at Vanessa across the table and think, it's us against the world. We're a team. Ride or die. That was my whole identity. Husband, provider, man of the house. And for a long time, I truly believed she saw me the same way. But teams only work when both people are playing the same game. Slowly, I started to realize I was the only one still on the field. Most days, my alarm went off before the sun even thought about coming up. Coffee, shower, traffic on I-35, 12 hours at the office, then crawl back home just in time to eat whatever was in the fridge and pass out. I worked my tail off, not because I loved my job, but because that's what men like me do. We carry the weight so the people we love don't have to. I wasn't writing love letters or planning surprise getaways every week, but I was loyal. I came home. I stayed. I showed up. And somewhere in that grind, she started to drift. Shorter conversations, colder hugs, more time scrolling, less time looking at me. I felt it. Every man knows that quiet shift, the way the room feels different even when nothing is wrong. But instead of facing it, I wrapped myself in the easiest excuse. She's just tired. Work is stressing her out. Don't be dramatic. The first night she said, I'm going out with friends, don't wait up. I laughed it off like it was nothing. It wasn't nothing. After that first girls' night, don't wait up, it became a thing. Once a month turned into once a week. Texts from her during the day got shorter. Where I used to get, how's your day, babe? Now it was just, busy. Talk later. She started getting ready later than me, too. Full makeup on a Tuesday. New dress I'd never seen before. Heels that didn't make sense for just wine with the girls. I'd be on the couch, half watching a game, and she'd walk past smelling like a department store sample counter, phone lighting up with group chats I wasn't part of. Don't wait up, she'd say again, grabbing her keys. Same words, same little laugh. At first I told myself, she deserves to have fun. You're being paranoid. Don't be that guy. But there's a difference between giving your wife freedom and feeling like you're slowly being written out of your own life. The nights got longer, the don't wait up came easier, and then one night, she came home late, smelling like cologne I definitely don't own. It was after midnight when I heard the door unlock. I was still awake, pretending to scroll my phone, but really I was just listening. Her heels clicked down the hallway, then stopped. I smelled it before I saw her. Not her usual perfume, not my cologne. Something heavier, a man's scent, wrapped around her like a jacket she forgot to take off. Hey, she said, not quite meeting my eyes, dropping her purse a little too fast on the counter. I looked at her hair, a bit out of place, lipstick faded, that smell hitting me again, straight in the chest. Every question lined up in my throat. Where were you? Who were you with? But the words died there. Instead, I forced a smile that didn't reach my eyes. Have fun? I asked, voice calm in a way that scared even me. She frowned, thrown off. You're not angry? And in that moment, with another man's cologne soaking my kitchen, I realized something. Getting the truth out of her wasn't the move. What I did next would hurt a lot more than shouting ever could. She stood there in my kitchen, wearing another man's cologne and my last nerve. Don't look at me like that, she said. You know love has to be earned, Mason. I let that sit for a second. Love, earned. from the man who'd been paying for everything while she came home smelling like somebody else. I felt this weird calm wash over me. No yelling, no drama, just clarity. I looked her dead in the eye and said, "You're right. Love must be earned, so I'll earn it, my way." She gave this little half laugh, rolled her eyes like I was being overdramatic. To her, I was still the same old Mason, the guy who'd swallow anything as long as she came home. The clock on the stove hit midnight. The house got quiet, heavy. I walked past her, down the hallway, and closed the bedroom door without another word. That was the last night I went to bed as the man she thought she could walk all over. What she didn't know was, by sunrise, she wouldn't be the center of my life anymore. My alarm went off at 6 a.m., same as always, but everything felt different. Usually I'd hit snooze 3 times, drag myself out of bed, and stumble straight into another day of the same routine. Not that morning. I got up, laced my shoes, looked at myself in the mirror, and really saw the man standing there. Tired eyes, soft around the middle, wearing a t-shirt from some old company picnic. I was done feeling like a ghost in my own life. I drove to the gym I'd been paying for but never using. No grand speech, no playlist to pump me up. Just me, a worn-out body, and a decision. The weights felt heavier than they should have. My lungs burned, but every rep felt like I was pulling a piece of myself back. That day I cleaned up my diet, threw out the saggy shirts, bought a couple of shirts that actually fit my shoulders. Walking out of that gym into the morning air, I had one clear thought. I exist too. Remember that. And the more I remembered it, the less power she was going to have. It didn't happen overnight, but it happened faster than I expected. A week of 6 a.m. workouts turned into 2. Fast food got swapped for actual meals. My shoulders filled out. My face leaned down. I started standing up straighter without even thinking about it. One morning I walked into the office, button-down shirt that actually fit, clean shave, new haircut. I stepped into the elevator with a couple coworkers, the same people who'd seen me half dead for years. "Damn, Mason," one of them said. "Someone's been living at the gym." Another clapped my shoulder. "Looking sharp, man." In a meeting later, my boss kept glancing my way. Not just at my work, at me. Like he was seeing me clearly for the first time. The more I stopped chasing what wasn't choosing me, the more everything else started moving toward me. Respect, attention, opportunities. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't just the guy in the background keeping the lights on. I was a man people actually saw. And back at home, someone else started to notice that too. It was a Thursday night. I came home later than usual. Not because I was avoiding her, but because I actually had a life to stay late for. New project, more responsibility. I walked in, loosened my tie, hung my jacket on the chair instead of throwing it anywhere. Vanessa was at the counter, scrolling her phone, half-heartedly picking at takeout. She looked up at me, really looked this time. Her eyes ran over the shirt, the fit, the way I carried myself. "You're different," she said, like it was an accusation. I grabbed a glass of water, took a slow sip, and for once, I let the silence sit. Then I smiled. Nothing over the top, just steady. "Yeah," I said, "just earning what I deserve." She frowned, confused. "Earning what? From who?" I didn't answer. I sat down, ate in quiet. No desperate jokes, no questions about her day. When I was done, I rinsed my plate, told her goodnight, and went to bed before she did. That tiny shift, me no longer orbiting her, shook her more than any argument ever had. And the more I pulled back, the more she started to panic. Not long after that, my boss pulled me into his office. Bigger client, bigger budget, high-pressure account. "And I want you leading it, Mason," he said. "Claire Mitchell will co-run with you. You two think the same." Next thing I knew, my calendar was packed with project calls, strategy sessions at the WeWork downtown, late afternoons sketching ideas on whiteboards instead of sitting at home wondering what time my wife might stroll in. Claire was sharp, focused. She actually listened when I talked through ideas, asked for my opinion, pushed back in a way that made the work better. It was strange feeling seen, not as a wallet, not as background noise, as a man who brought something valuable to the table. On those long days, my phone would buzz once or twice in my pocket. Vanessa, sending a short text. I'd glance at it, finish my thought with Claire, and answer when I got around to it. For the first time in years, my purpose wasn't orbiting her mood. I had somewhere to be, and it had nothing to do with whether she was busy tonight. A few weeks into the project, I booked a haircut at a place that didn't cost $12 and regret. The barber trimmed the sides, cleaned up the beard, left just enough to still look like me, but a version of me that actually gave a damn about himself. On the way home, I stopped, bought a new bottle of cologne, mine this time, and a watch with the bonus I'd earned on the last campaign. Back at the house, I showered, put on a fitted shirt, real jeans, a couple sprays of that new scent. When I stepped out of the bedroom, Vanessa was in the hallway, frozen like she'd just run into a stranger. Her eyes went from my hair, to the watch, to the way the shirt sat on my shoulders. "You're really trying now," she said slowly. I caught my reflection in the glass of the back door. Same man, different weight in his eyes. "Yeah," I said, adjusting the watch. Figured it was time I caught up with myself. She didn't say anything, but I could feel it. That first quiet spark of jealousy starting to burn. A few nights later, I brought some work home. Claire swung by after office hours so we could finish a client deck before the morning meeting. We sat at the dining table, laptops open, coffee cups everywhere, arguing over headlines and colors the way people do when they actually care about the outcome. At one point, she cracked a joke about our client's terrible logo, and I laughed. A real laugh, the kind I hadn't heard from myself in a long time. That's when the front door opened. Vanessa stepped in earlier than usual, keys in hand, purse still on her shoulder. She froze in the doorway when she saw us. Me leaning in toward Claire's screen, Claire smiling, my face relaxed, alive. The air shifted. You could feel it. "Hey," I said, sitting back, voice calm. "This is Claire. We're just finishing up a presentation for tomorrow." Vanessa didn't smile, didn't move. Her eyes went from Claire to me to Claire again. For the first time in a long time, she looked like the one who'd just walked into something she didn't control. And the question behind her eyes was loud. "Who the hell is this woman in my house?" Claire packed up a little later, shutting her laptop and thanking me for the help. She said goodnight to Vanessa, who answered with a tight, polite smile that didn't reach her eyes. When the door closed behind Claire, the house went quiet in that heavy way again. Vanessa turned to me, jaw set. "Who is she?" I shrugged, started stacking the papers on the table. "I told you, that's Claire. We work together." "That's not what I mean," she snapped. "The way you were laughing, the way she was looking at you." I let out a slow breath, put the last page on the pile, and finally met her stare. "She's someone," I said, "who appreciates what I bring to the table." The words landed between us like a dropped plate. She went quiet. No comeback, no smart remark, just that flicker in her eyes. The realization that for once, someone else had seen value in the man she thought would always be waiting in the background. I picked up my laptop, walked past her toward the hallway, and for the first time I didn't feel small in my own home. And that's when her jealousy really started to wake up. That night, the house felt strangely quiet. Not cold, not tense, just waiting. Vanessa walked into the room without her phone, without the usual wall between us. She sat beside me, close enough that her knee brushed mine. "I miss this," she whispered. Her fingers traced my arm, slow and intentional, the kind of touch I used to starve for. But something in me didn't move. I stood up, just a few inches of space, but enough to shift the entire balance of our marriage. "You're the one who told me love has to be earned," I said. My voice wasn't cruel, just honest. "So if you want this back, earn it." She froze, hand suspended midair. For the first time, the boundary wasn't hers. It was mine. The next morning, the smell of bacon hit me before the light did. Vanessa never cooked on weekdays, but there she was, hair brushed, soft music on, plates already set like a magazine spread. "Thought you'd like breakfast," she said, smiling just a little too brightly. All week, it continued. New dresses, careful makeup, laughing a bit too hard at jokes that weren't funny the first time. Anyone else would have called it affection. but I've lived with her long enough to recognize fear dressed up as love. Not fear of losing me, but fear of losing the stability I brought, the lifestyle, the man she assumed would never walk away. And once a man knows the difference, you can't unsee it. That evening, watching her float around the kitchen with that forced charm, it finally hit me. I wasn't a husband. I was a provider, a safety net, a man she depended on, but didn't value. Every late night out, every cold shoulder, every sudden burst of affection after she saw me changing. It all added up to one truth. I wasn't being loved. I was being managed. So I opened my laptop, not to escape, but to rebuild. A new routine, a cleaner schedule, time blocked for the gym, work, sleep, and none of it revolving around her. She missed the version of me who tolerated everything. That man was gone. A couple days later, I was at the office late, finishing slides alone in the conference room. Everyone else had gone home. The building was quiet in that humming, fluorescent way. Claire walked in, holding her bag, coat over her arm. "You're still here?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. "Just cleaning this up before tomorrow." She studied me for a second. Not the surface-level look Vanessa had been giving me, checking for competition or signs of guilt. A real look. "You okay?" she asked, soft but straightforward. I opened my mouth to give the usual, "I'm fine, just tired," but the words stalled. I just nodded. "Yeah, I'm okay." She didn't push, didn't pry. She just sat down across from me, helped fix one last typo in the deck, saved the file, and closed her laptop. "Go home, Mason," she said. "You've done enough for today." There was nothing romantic in it, nothing messy, just simple respect, a kind of warmth that had been missing from my own house for a long time. I shut down the computer, and for the first time in weeks, the walk to my car felt a little less heavy. That weekend, my neighbor Mark yelled over the fence, "Firing up the grill, you in?" Normally, I'd say no, use busy or tired as an excuse, sit inside scrolling my phone while waiting to see what kind of mood Vanessa came home in. This time I said, "Yeah, man, give me 5. 10 minutes later, I was in his backyard, country music low on a Bluetooth speaker, kids running around with water guns, the smell of burgers and charcoal in the air. Mark handed me a beer. We talked about work, the Cowboys, the usual nothing that somehow feels like everything when your head's been heavy for too long. At one point I laughed, really laughed, at some stupid story about his boss. As I tipped the can back, I caught movement over his shoulder. Vanessa, standing in our yard, watching through the slats in the fence. Our eyes met. I raised my beer in a small, wordless salute, then turned back to Mark's story. In that moment, she saw it. I could feel light without her being the source. A few days later, I decided to clean out the home office. It had become a graveyard. Old paperwork, dead chargers, boxes we never unpacked when we first moved in. If I was rebuilding my life, I didn't want to do it on top of clutter. I was clearing a stack of random cables when I found it. Her old tablet, half buried under a pile of tax folders. I almost tossed it in the electronics box, but the screen lit up when I brushed the power button. No passcode. Face ID probably still set to her. It just opened. For a second, I stared at my own reflection in the glass, then at the row of little red notification circles. One banner slid down from the top of the screen, like the thing had been waiting for me all this time. New message. A name I didn't recognize at first. Ethan. My thumb hovered. Heart slow, not fast. I tapped the thread. And right there, in that quiet home office that I paid for, I started to learn exactly who my wife had really been choosing all along. The thread opened, and there it was. Message after message, like a slow-motion car crash I couldn't look away from. Last night was perfect. Still thinking about you. He has no idea. That was me. The man killing himself to keep this house, this Wi-Fi, this tablet running. I scrolled further. I need excitement. He's a good guy, but I can't breathe with him sometimes. My hands started to shake, the tablet suddenly heavier than it had any right to be. All the late nights, the don't wait up, the extra perfume, the cologne that wasn't mine. It all lined up in one ugly, sharp picture. The glow of the screen felt harsh, too bright in that small room. I could see my reflection behind her words, this tired man reading about how he wasn't enough for the woman he'd been breaking himself to support. For a second, rage shot up so fast I almost couldn't breathe. But what surprised me most was not what I found on that screen. It was what I did next. If you'd asked me years ago what I'd do if I ever found proof she cheated, I would have told you I'd lose it, punch a wall, smash something, scream until the neighbors called the cops. Instead, I put the tablet down on the desk. My heart was pounding, but then it started to slow, like my body had finally decided it was done sprinting after someone who was already gone. I leaned back in the chair, stared up at the ceiling of that little home office, the one I painted myself, the one I was so proud of when we moved in. No tears, no yelling, just this deep, hollow ache that sat right in the middle of my chest. I let out a long breath I didn't know I'd been holding. This wasn't a shock, not really. It was confirmation, proof of what my gut had been whispering for months while my heart kept telling it to shut up. In that heavy, terrifying quiet, one thought cut through everything else. If she could do all this while I was still loving her, what exactly was I still staying for? That question, what am I still staying for, didn't leave room for anything else. I picked up the tablet again, not to read more, just to screenshot everything. Every last night was perfect. Every he has no idea. Every I need excitement. The printer in the corner started spitting out pages, her words in cheap black ink on paper I bought. When it was done, I stacked the sheets with shaking hands, slid them into a plain white envelope, pressed the flap down until it sealed. On the front, in my handwriting, I wrote one sentence. Love must be earned. So must forgiveness. Her line. Turned back on her like a mirror. I walked to the kitchen, set the envelope right in the middle of the counter, the same spot she used to drop grocery bags, the same place I'd leave my paycheck stubs. Then I just stood there for a minute, looking around at the house I'd broken myself to pay for. The pictures on the wall, the couch we picked out together. For the first time, it all felt less like a home, and more like a very expensive lie. Once the envelope was down, there was only one thing left to do. I walked to the bedroom, pulled out a duffel bag, and started packing like a man who'd finally accepted he wasn't welcome in his own life anymore. Couple pairs of jeans, work shirts, gym clothes, toiletries, nothing extra, nothing that would make this feel like I was coming back tomorrow. I took my wedding ring off, held it in my palm for a second, then set it next to the envelope on the counter. No note explaining it, no speech, just metal and truth side by side. In the garage, the air smelled like oil and dust. I tossed the duffel into the back of my F-150, slid into the driver's seat, and just sat there with my hands on the wheel. I didn't slam the door, didn't rev the engine like some dramatic movie scene. I just turned the key, listened to the truck come alive. As I backed out of the driveway, I made myself do one last thing. I did not look back at the house. I'd left her the truth on the counter and the silence to meet it with. What she did when she found it, that was on her. I ended up in a small apartment at the Domain, you know the type. One bedroom, neutral walls, generic art, a balcony that looks out over a parking lot, and a couple of palm trees someone planted to make Texas feel more like California. It wasn't home, but it was mine. And right then, mine was enough. First night there, I dropped my duffel on the floor, sat on this cheap gray sofa the leasing office threw into the deal, and just listened. No footsteps. No doors closing. No, don't wait up. Just AC humming and my own breathing. I made myself a cup of black coffee, even though it was late. Habit. Something solid to hold while everything else felt like it was floating. When I opened my laptop, there was an email from my boss waiting at the top of the inbox. Let's talk Monday. Big opportunity for you. I stared at that line for a long time. My marriage had just burned down, and somehow my life was handing me a blueprint for something new. I didn't know what Monday would bring, but for the first time in a long time, I wanted to find out. The next morning, my body wanted to shut down, curl up, disappear like it always did after emotional wreckage. I didn't let it. I got up, laced my shoes, and drove to the gym in silence, not running from the past, but stepping into something new. Every rep felt like peeling off another layer of the man who stayed too long. When I returned to my quiet apartment, I said it out loud, not for anyone else, just for me. I choose me now. Not a quote, not a mantra, a decision. Monday came, and for once I didn't drag myself into work like a ghost. I walked into the conference room early, clear-headed, prepared, grounded. Claire opened the pitch, sharp as always, then passed it to me. This time the words came easily. No second guessing, no shrinking myself. When the meeting ended, Claire gave me a small nod. Not pity, not sympathy, recognition. And I realized something simple. I finally believed in myself again. 2 days later, an email landed in my inbox. Let's talk title and raise. No sugarcoating, no empty praise, just acknowledgement. I stepped onto the balcony, letting the Texas sun wash over me. No one stood beside me to celebrate, and for the first time in my life, that didn't feel lonely. It felt earned. It felt mine. And that was enough. Her name appeared on my screen mid-afternoon. Can we talk? Old me would have dropped everything. Heart racing, mind spinning. This time I simply set my phone face down and finished my work. Not out of spite, not to prove anything, but because she simply wasn't the center anymore. That night, I slept straight through. No checking my phone, no hoping, no dreading. In the morning, I tied my shoes and walked out the door, not running from the past, but walking toward a man I was finally getting to know. Eventually, I replied, not that day, not the next. A couple of days later, between meetings, I opened her message again. Can we talk? My thumbs hovered over the keyboard, and then I typed the coldest, truest sentence I'd ever sent her. If you have something to say, send it in an email. No heart, no hey, no opening for more. That evening, an email came in from her address. Subject line, I'm sorry. I didn't open it right away. When I finally did, it was everything you'd expect. Paragraphs about mistakes, how she'd been confused, how it didn't mean anything, how she missed us, how she never thought I'd actually leave. There were parts that stung, parts that would have broken me before. This time, I read it like a lawyer, not a husband. When I was done, I didn't hit reply. I clicked move, created a folder called records, and dropped her apology in there next to scanned bills and contract copies. Evidence, not a love letter. For the first time in our history, I was the one setting the pace, and I wasn't in a hurry anymore. I didn't see this part myself. Mark told me later over a beer. One afternoon, Vanessa caught him out front, pulling his trash cans back in. Hey, Mark, she said, trying to sound casual. You talked to Mason at all? He shrugged, the way guys do when they don't want to get in the middle. Yeah, a bit, he said. He's doing okay. Working a lot. Seems focused. Focused. Not broken. Not begging to come home. She just nodded, but Mark said he could tell it rattled her. The picture in her head of me curled up somewhere crying didn't match the version he'd just described. That night, he said, their bedroom light stayed on late, way later than usual. He could see the glow from their window when he let the dog out one last time. Meanwhile, I was across town in my small apartment, already asleep, alarm set for the gym, completely unaware that for the first time, she was the one lying awake, wondering who I was becoming without her. Weeks slid by like that until 2 whole months had passed since I left the envelope on the counter. No calls from me, a couple of emails from her, filed away, unanswered. Life settled into a new rhythm. Work, gym, decent sleep, quiet evenings that didn't feel like punishment anymore. Then one Tuesday afternoon, I was at my desk going through numbers when my desk phone rang. It was the front desk, Mrs. Donovan. Hey, Mason, she said, voice a little lower than usual. There's a woman here asking for you. Says she's your wife. For a second, everything in me went still. Old instincts wanted to spike, panic, hope, anger, all fighting for first place. Instead, I set my pen down, took a slow breath, and let the silence stretch just long enough to choose my reaction. Okay, I said finally. You can send her up. When I hung up, I looked at my reflection in the black screen of my monitor, straightened my shirt, and sat back in my chair. A minute later, I heard the knock. The handle turned. The door opened. 2 months of silence were about to speak. She walked into my office like someone had turned the saturation down on her. Vanessa used to fill a room, hair done, makeup sharp, energy loud. This version of her was smaller, thinner, dark circles under her eyes, clothes hanging a little looser than before. "Hey," she said, voice already cracking. I didn't rush to stand up. I didn't run to her. I just sat there, hands folded on my desk, letting her be the one who felt unsteady for once. She closed the door behind her and took a few steps in. Her eyes were shining before a single tear actually fell. "I miss you," she whispered. Then it came out faster, messier. "I miss you, Mason. I'm sorry. I made a mistake." The old me would have broken right there. Stood up, wrapped her in my arms, told her we'd figure it out. This time, I just looked at her. Really looked. The love wasn't all gone. That's the painful part. But it wasn't strong enough anymore to drown out everything I'd learned since the night I left. So I let the silence answer first. She took my silence as an opening. "We can fix this," she rushed out. "We can go to counseling, start over, whatever it takes. I know I messed up, but what we had, it can't just be gone." I leaned back in my chair, studied her the way she used to study me, noticing every crack, every flinch. For a long moment, I didn't say anything. I just let her words hang there between us, next to every "don't touch me," every "don't wait up," every message to Ethan on that tablet. Finally, I spoke. "You know what's funny?" I said quietly. "There was a time I would have given anything to hear you say that." Her eyes searched mine, desperate. "So, then let's fix it." I shook my head. "I used to beg for your love, Vanessa," I told her. "I begged for the bare minimum. Now you're standing in my office begging me for a chance." The room went dead still. 2 confessions, years apart. Mine back then, hers right now. Only one of us was too late. She swallowed hard, fingers gripping the edge of the chair. "Mason, please. I know I hurt you, but we have history. We have a life. Doesn't that mean anything?" I let out a slow breath, more tired than angry. "It does," I said. "It means I gave you years of my life. It means I showed you exactly who I was, over and over." Her eyes brightened for a second, like she thought I was softening. Then I finished. "But it also means you knew exactly what you were breaking when you did what you did." She flinched. I leaned forward, elbows on my desk. "I'm not your backup plan, Vanessa. I'm not your safety net for when excitement doesn't work out." Her breath hitched. The chair creaked as she shifted. "Respect," I said, "is non-negotiable, and you cashed that out a long time ago." A tear slipped down her cheek. "Don't say that." I shook my head. "I spent years choosing you even when you didn't deserve it. I'm done with that. I choose me now." The words landed like a door closing, quiet, final, no slam needed. She wiped her face with the back of her hand, voice going small in a way I'd never heard from her. "I can change," she whispered. "I'll do therapy. I'll cut contact. I'll do whatever you want. Just don't walk away from us." There was a time that sentence would have been everything I'd prayed for. Now it just sounded like someone trying to save a house after they'd already lit the match. "Maybe you can change," I said. And I meant it. People do. Sometimes. "But the cracks," I tapped my chest. "They're in me. You put them there." She looked down at her hands, like she could see her choices on them. "I'm not the same man who begged you to stay," I went on. "The night you told me, 'Don't touch me,' something in me died. The night I walked out with that envelope on the counter, someone else was born." I paused, let that sink in. "You're asking for another chance with a version of me that doesn't exist anymore." Her shoulders sagged, head lowered. In that moment, we both finally understood the same thing. This wasn't a fight. It was a funeral for the future we'd already killed. She sat there a moment longer, like she was waiting for the old script to kick in, for me to break, to reach across the desk, to say, "Okay, fine, we'll try." When it didn't happen, she blinked hard, pushed her chair back. The legs scraped against the floor, loud in the quiet room. She stood up, wiped her cheeks with shaking fingers, and turned toward the door. For a second, she hesitated. hand on the handle, shoulders tight, like she was giving me one last chance to stop her, to chase, to prove I still needed her more than my self-respect. I didn't move. I just reached over, opened the door for her from where I sat, then leaned back in my chair again. "Take care of yourself, Vanessa," I said. Her breath broke on a small sob. A tear hit the floor between us. Then she walked out. No dramatic goodbye, no promises. I didn't follow, didn't stand in the hallway watching her disappear. I closed the door gently, sat back down, and let the quiet settle around me. Not as an enemy this time, but as proof that I was finally done chasing someone who'd never learned how to stay. I don't know how long I sat there after she left. 5 minutes. 20. Long enough for my heartbeat to stop trying to sprint. Eventually, I grabbed my keys, logged off my computer, and walked down the hallway toward the elevators. The doors opened to the lobby of Frostbank Tower, that same cold marble I'd walked across 100 times before. But stepping out onto the street that day felt different. Austin's sun hit me right in the face, bright, hot, unapologetic. Traffic rolled along Congress Ave, buses sighing, cars honking, people crossing the street with iced coffees and headphones in, living lives that had nothing to do with my heartbreak. And somehow, that felt comforting. The world hadn't ended just because my marriage did. I stood there on the sidewalk for a second, took a slow, deep breath, and let the heat sink into my skin. Same city, same building, same sky. But the man walking out of those glass doors wasn't the same one who'd walked in months ago begging for a woman to choose him. For the first time, I didn't feel half. I just felt whole. And that was new. For a long time, I thought revenge meant doing back what was done to you. You get cheated on, you blow up their life, you expose them, burn every bridge they have, make sure everyone knows exactly who they are. People even told me that. Post the screenshots. Send everything to her family. Make her feel what you felt. Standing there on Congress Ave, sun in my eyes, city humming around me, I realized something that hit deeper than any of that. Hurting her wouldn't actually fix anything in me. It wouldn't unsend the messages to Ethan. Wouldn't unhear "don't touch me." Wouldn't magically turn me into the man I should have been to myself years ago. What would? Healing. Getting so solid in who I am that her betrayal is just a chapter, not the whole book. Real revenge, I decided, isn't making someone bleed the way they made you bleed. Real revenge is healing so completely that what they did stops being the most interesting thing about you. And for the first time, that thought actually made me smile. So no, I didn't post the screenshots. I didn't send the messages to her parents or blast them into some group chat. I didn't text Ethan, didn't show up at his gym, didn't try to scare him or warn him. I let them both live with who they chose to be. Meanwhile, I went to work. On myself. I kept showing up at the gym, kept leading that account, stacked small wins, better sleep, cleaner eating, paying my own bills in my own place with money I actually felt good about earning. When friends asked what happened, I didn't trash her. I just said, it didn't work out. We wanted different things. Because the truth is, I did want different things. I wanted respect, honesty, a partner who didn't treat my love like something to trade in when she got bored. I didn't destroy her. I didn't chase her. I just became a man she would never have access to again. And somehow, without any screaming or drama, that felt louder than anything I could have done to hurt her. So that's the story. I was the guy who busted my ass to keep the lights on, thinking that made me worthy of love. I was the man who let himself be treated like a paycheck, like a roommate with benefits, while calling it marriage. I stayed when she pulled away. I begged when she went cold. I swallowed my gut feelings, ignored the signs, and told myself that loving her meant abandoning me. Turns out, I had it backwards. Real love doesn't start with us. It starts with self-respect. With the decision to say, I choose me now, and actually mean it. I didn't win by hurting her. I won by rebuilding myself until her betrayal was just part of my past, not the definition of my worth. If any part of this story feels like your life, don't scroll past it like just another video. Drop a comment. I choose me. Hit subscribe, stick around, because this isn't just my story, it's a mirror. The only question is, are you going to keep surviving it or finally start rewriting it?